Welcome back, Guardian. Thanks for tuning in. If you were part of my channel during Shadow Keep, you're going to be really familiar with this build, but this is a Taken/Hive God mode version of it, and it seems like somebody broke the game of the build by doing some glitches, but this is an actual legitimate build that you can actually put on that plays like a broken build because you're practically unkillable with this on, and it allows you to seamlessly control and solo any Taken or Hive Grandmaster, or basically anything that you want to solo in the game, because you're practically unkillable and invisible and can summon Oppressive Darkness grenades within seconds using the bottom tree Void with Heart of the Pack. There's a lot of topic that I wanted to cover, so to save time, I'm just going to pop the screenshot up. Use whatever loaders you want to on your arms. I just have the Unstoppable Pulse on there, but you can use whatever. The only difference between this version and the Hive version is take off the Taken mods, replace them with the Hive mods. Since this build requires Bomber to be able to summon the grenades even quicker, I don't have room to put 3 major, 2 minor, so I'm using 2 minor resists and 2 major resists. And the cool thing about Heart of the Pack is I don't have to waste any mod space for any mobility or recovery, because I'm pretty much going to be Heart of the Pack in all the time during Grandmaster, because I always have smoke to throw down at my feet, which gives me grenade recharge to go with the Bomber, and also go with my dodge. It's going to increase my mobility because of Heart of the Pack. And then to go with that, I have Gambler's Dodge, so anytime I dodge near an enemy, I get my smoke back, so I can do this process of 6 Coyote double dodging and getting the smoke back, throwing it at my feet to go with the Bomber to get my grenades back, and I'm practically unkillable and invisible the entire time. So if I want to solo cheese around any kind of obstacles or battle it out, I have hundreds of Oppressive Darkness grenades throughout all the Grandmasters this season because they're all Taken and all Hive. So I have Oppressive Darkness, I have Taken armaments to give me my heavy ammo to go with any weapon that I want to use for my heavy slot. I also have Taken repurposing, which actually does a really beneficial kind of glitch that it's not supposed to do, but it's been consistent, and every time I do a finisher on any ad, except for any yellow bars that aren't champions, like the yellow bar knight that's in this strike, if I finish any ad or finish any champion, it automatically gives my grenade back, on top of giving my grenade back every time I bust anybody's shield. And to top that off, I also have armaments, so anytime I get a grenade kill on a Taken, I get heavy ammo. On top of this, I also have high energy fire, which I'm going to talk about versus Lucent Blade in just a little bit. And then on top of that, I have Taking Charge, which is going to charge me with light anytime I touch any kind of orb. And I also have Counter Charge, so anytime I stagger or stun or break a shield on any champion, I become charged with light on that as well. And then for your arm piece, use whatever loader or whatever makes sense with the weapon choice that you choose to use. And then 2 minor and then 2 major resist always, because it's going to save you on any revives during combat. If things were to hit the fan, it's always there, and it's always a guarantee to not die from enemies that can one-shot you or any enemy that can 2-shot you. It's going to grant you extra shots to get you out of those situations, to hit your invisibility or get out of any kind of jam that you might be in. So always go with those major and minor resist. I know finding the right statted gear to get your mobility and your recovery right can be kind of a chore and a pain to do on a hunter. It seems like Warlock just gets all the gifted stats for their armor versus the Titan and the Hunter, but that's why you have Heart of the Pack, so you don't have to focus so much on your mobility and your recovery. Heart of the Pack is going to take care of majority of that for you, and if you have a lightweight weapon, that's going to be all the better for you as well, but you're always going to have Heart of the Pack active. And it doesn't matter how easy or hard the activity is, you can control every situation with this build on, for as simple as 2 dodges sounds. When it's built out right, it's complete control and the greatest Destiny 2 build up to date in my opinion. And you can use whatever weapon you want to have that bonus damage and that shield disorient Jotun that you just saw where I stunned that guy and then finished him, and then the 2 major resists that prevented me from dying right then. And then when I do that finisher, he's the only type of ad you won't get your grenade back with Taken repurposing, because for some reason he's a yellow bar knight and it just decides that they're not good enough to get the grenade back. So any other ad you finish though, it's a guaranteed grenade back. So shield bust grenade, do the dodge mechanic to get your grenades back, bust a shield to get your grenade back, so you always get that Oppressive Darkness, and then to top it off you get that armaments for the heavy ammo, which I recommend a rocket or a shield disorient weapon of any type. And we're going to talk about the grenade I recommend right now, which is going to be the Void Wall grenade this season. Because of how many Taken there are and how they multiply and things like that, having the Void Wall grenade covers more ground, you can mark more targets, and to get that 30% bonus damage while they're burning in it, it can just wipe out an entire area very cleanly, when other grenades only cover so much area and you don't always, catch them all. So a perfectly placed Void Wall grenade is pretty beast. And then again, back to shield disorient, this is negative 52 light that you're seeing gameplay of right now, and if I didn't have shield disorient on, there's no way to control these action dart little dudes, because they'll just keep throwing them over and over again, and you can't actually kill them because I'm too low and my weapons don't do enough damage. But by having shield disorient, I can stop them, and because they're standing beside each other, whenever I stagger one, it staggers the next one, and then again Taken repurposing, every time I bust that shield, I get that grenade back, so I can keep throwing these Oppressive Darkness grenades at them. And then for the arm piece right there, I just have the Unstoppable Pulse Rifle on, so you can use whatever you want to on the arm piece, but there's nothing in this build that it lacks. You have everything that you'll ever need in any Taken activity or any Hive activity. And that's what makes it the ultimate build, because you have that invisibility property, which is survival. You got the resist properties, so when you're in battle you can take more shots. You got all your abilities back. The super is just kind of like the icing on the cake. You really don't even need it half the time unless you're just using it to get out of a death situation. But this build is perfectly put together, and like I was saying, there's no better build that gives you that kind of control, that kind of survival, that kind of beast mode DPS, and all the tools you'll need. And what's crazy is I don't even have good stats. I just started farming out this hunter gear like 3 days ago. So my mobility is like at a 3, my recovery's at like a 4, my discipline's at like a 5, so it's not even like good statted armor, and the build is still OP. So you don't have to even focus on that at all, because of the fact that you have Heart of the Pack and all the invisibility half the time. You have plenty of time to get your recovery back if you do get busted. I'm not trying to beat a dead horse and repeat it over and over, but there's nothing literally in this build that you can add to it to make it even better, and if you take anything away from it, it just really hurts it. So based on the room that you have to work with, it's perfectly min-maxed to the fullest. There's like nothing else you can really change on it besides finding better naturally statted armor for higher mobility and higher recovery and things if you wanted to do that, but it's not really necessary. During Shadowkeep, I recommended having a tier 7 grenade because there was no delay pause after you did the smoke dodge, but all you gotta do in Grandmaster if you can't reach the tier 7 is just stay invisible just a tad bit longer to get a little bit more built back on your meter before you throw the smoke down at your feet again, and you'll still get your grenade back in plenty of time. So don't waste any of your mod space on recovery or mobility or discipline. Heart of the Pack seriously takes care of all that for you, and there's never going to be a situation where you really need any of these stats because of Heart of the Pack. And I couldn't find any situation where I was like, damn, I need more recovery or I need more mobility. And like I said, you could put a lightweight weapon on too to go with Heart of the Pack to make it even better. And the higher your mobility, the faster you're going to get your dodge back. And if you're using a weapon that has Killing Wind on it, every time you get Killing Wind active, that takes 3.5 seconds off of your dodge time. So if you wanted to use the fusion rifle with that, with like Killing Wind and Unrelenting, you can do that combination, which is what I'm trying to farm out now. But let's get into some other topics. I don't want to continue, repeating myself about that build, but trust me, put all of that together and you'll completely understand what I'm talking about and how broken it seems that it is when it's just a legit build and not actually a cheese build or anything. It's just put together in a way that there's nothing else that makes it a better build in Destiny, in my opinion, especially when it comes to Grandmaster, for Taken, or for the Hive. But let's talk about Lucent Blade now and why I chose High Energy Fire over Lucent, because a lot of people were talking about how beast Lucent is, but whenever I did a lot of the testing in a Grandmaster situation, being around -52 to -42 light under, I didn't really see any purpose in Lucent because of the fact that Lucent doesn't proc right away. What I mean by that is if when you run up to a champion, you have a brief window to do DPS before the DPS phase is over, and when you first get into that sword spin, 2 of the swings don't proc on it. It procs on the ones after that, and then the timer for Lucent starts to count down. So whenever you're in a DPS phase for any kind of champion, you just get that one swing basically, and when you time the damage between Lucent and High Energy Fire, there's not a lot of damage difference at all. To break it down and simplify it, Lucent is equivalent to if you had a boss spec on a sword versus another sword that doesn't have a boss spec. I'm sure you watched a ton of videos of people melting bosses and things with it, but what you don't know is a lot of those videos also have heavyweight on, and they're not telling you about that. But the difference between how many swings it takes versus Lucent and High Energy, it takes the exact same number of swings to down a target. And then if you have like things like heavyweight on or whatever, it's going to be much more. In my opinion, Lucent's kind of a base game perk, because how you're supposed to use Lucent is you're supposed to proc it with Whirlwind accompanied with that. So you do the ×5 Whirlwind and then do Lucent, and then by that time the timer is started and you're well within the damage. But you can do the same thing with High Energy Fire. But why I say that Lucent's a base game perk is because you can't get that Whirlwind built up like you can in base game in a Grandmaster. The damage phases don't last long enough on champions, and in a boss situation, you're not going to walk up to a boss and live very long unless you have a bubble around you or something that's going to protect you. Then you can get that maximum DPS out. But High Energy Fire is better because you get it with all of your weapons, and it doesn't go away until the target's actually dead. So you can keep it procced and stay doing that 20%. Rather than doing just a tiny bit of more damage when it's overall going to take around the same number of swings in the grand scheme of it all anyways. To show you on a health meter of a boss target how much damage difference you're actually doing, this is what it looks like with Lucent versus without Lucent and using High Energy Fire. Pay attention to the E on Simulated, because that's where the damage is going to be around. Now we go to High Energy Fire, the 20% damage. It has a little bit of that delayed damage, which is natural. A lot of fusions do that too, where it just doesn't catch up. and you can see it's a little bit behind it. That's not really enough of a gap for what Lucent offers versus what High Energy offers, which is for all your weapons. Now let's put High Energy Fire and a boss spec on, and you'll see that the boss spec at High Energy does more than Lucent. Now obviously if you put a boss spec on with Lucent will do more damage, but what I'm basically just getting at is it's as if you have a boss spec on a weapon versus a weapon without it. That's the damage difference between Lucent and High Energy Fire. And that's why I think Lucent is just meant for a base game. That way you can ramp up the Whirlwind to go with Lucent, but overall, I mean, High Energy Fire is definitely going to be more of a Grandmaster related perk over the Lucent. It also makes the build more of a universal build with High Energy Fire. You don't have to worry about swapping a bunch of mods out just to get a tiny bit more damage. And again, with these grenades, just doing these dodges around champions, I mean, you pretty much own every champion in a Grandmaster or really any boss. The main difference between top tree's invisibility and bottom tree, top tree is right when you go invisible, enemies cease to see you basically. They cannot see you, Axion darts won't track you, nothing. But when you have bottom tree invisibility, Axion darts can still track you, and some enemies can still see you for a few seconds after you go invisible. Just be aware of the situations where you're not going to be completely invisible when you have any enemies that have some kind of tracking. I'm not totally against swords or anything, but when it comes to Grandmaster, my loadouts, it's probably going to be a mixture of Jotun or Telesto mixed with always a rocket, because ad clear is just the main role that I like to play on a team. I'm not saying you shouldn't have some kind of sword person on your team if you're going to mix it with like a bubble or just anything that can just do immediate quick damage. Swords still hit hard, don't get me wrong, but you don't get nearly the amount of ad control you get out of like a rocket and a fusion rifle. That's why I'm always still going to go rocket. Just the ad control is insane in Grandmaster, but to each their own. It just depends on, do you want to, hit single targets a lot harder, or do you want to be good for all the ads in general? And that's what I like to gear out for, is to be covered and have complete dominance over every type of ad and be more combat universal in that sense. I hope in the future in Grandmasters and stuff that Bungie starts making more Slayer loadouts that are geared more towards universal ad control, because right now, I mean, it's not my fault that Telesto and Jotun and Rockets outslay any other type loadout. That's just what it is. Maybe Bungie will stop making these, single target specific type loadouts that aren't nearly as quick. I mean, with a rocket, you just shut the situation down. With fusion rifles and shield disorient, you control any major ads that have shields on them, so there's really no competition when it comes to the type of loadout that I like to have versus really any other type of loadout. When it comes to speed killing ad to ad, those are just the fastest weapons in the game, and I don't want to use something that makes me go slower, so I like to do ad slay, and then somebody else in the team can be geared out for swords or bows or, long distance shots, sniper rifles. Those roles just don't appeal to me. They're not that fun. I like to move around a lot, and I like to slay a lot of ads and increase kill count number. That's my main goal when I build out anything, is how can I control and slay a shitload of ads, and Rocket Fusion does it. And I'm not going to say that I don't get tired of always using that loadout, but at the same time, I don't want to go slower, so it's like my choices: go to a different type fusion, or go to a shoddy, or go to a sniper, and really just not have as much fun as I like to have. Or I can put this stuff on and, dominate and, slay almost every ad in a Grandmaster or Strike or anything PvE related. And I think that's where Bungie's kind of failing in Grandmaster loadouts, in my opinion. They build more stuff for DPS rather than, ad controllability, and DPS doesn't equal ad control. Just because a weapon hits hard, and I've said that a lot, doesn't mean that it's going to give you ad control properties. You can have on, the hardest hitting sword in the game, but if you can't get close to ads to use it, you might as well have nothing in your hand. Just like you're seeing this gameplay right here, I didn't have my rocket loaded, but had that quick field prep reload to go ahead and knock it out. I have that max blast radius and, quick pull speed. I can turn and fire these rockets precisely anywhere, and the blast is so wide that I hit majority of targets and kill everything that's a red bar or an orange bar in its wake, not counting the oppressive darkness, and then across the map, hitting that guy with shield disorient, then grenade him to get my rockets back from the armaments, and I got my grenade back because I busted his shield using the shield disorient, and then if I finish anybody, I get my grenade back. So this build and how it's put together, the fusion, the rocket for the ad slay role, is just ultimate to me. There's nothing else that can slay faster and have that kind of survivability and beast properties combined into one. And if you don't like rocket fusion ad slay combo, put on whatever you want, because the build's ready to go, Guardian. Just piece it all together, grind those last Swiss chests, get repurposing, get armaments. If you need to do the menagerie to get the Hive mods, it's the same build when you're doing like Sabbath and Song. Just replace the Taken mods with the Hive. It's the exact same thing. But hopefully you enjoyed this build today, Guardians. If you want to join our Beast Squad, I'd highly appreciate the support. You can even just like and share my content. That helps my ratings out a ton, and I appreciate all you Guardians. Next up, we're going to be working on Titan, getting the banger up and ready as well. So stay tuned for that one, Guardian. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. But like I said, a true Grandmaster build is going to rely on your natural stats. That way you can put those resist on, plus all the other mods you saw today on the build. Plus you have explosive finisher with that taken repurposing that's kind of glitched right now. So you're getting the benefits of explosive finisher and being able to use a solar affinity by having bomber on at the same time when you can't normally do that. So for anything taken in Hive, like I said, this is the build that you want to go for Grandmaster if you main a hunter. I don't even main the hunter, and this build is one of my favorite builds in the game. So every time I go to my hunter, it's always my Frosty build or my 6 Coyote build. But if it comes down to business, 6 Coyote all day, the last Coyote is what I call it, because you're always going to be the final Guardian standing because you have all those properties to keep beasting and surviving. But my name is Ristophlus, Guardians. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all your support. I'll see you all in the next video next time.
In space.